open source movement is also facing kind of a limit that I mentioned before, which is the data. And if we manage to, with Crunch, enable this position where you can access data without actually seeing it and extract insight out of them. So I think orchestration is big because now open source is being free, right? Everyone is contributing for free. This sector is going to be the sector that's going to create the most value in the next 15 to 20 years. And it's probably larger than internet. If you think about it, we're probably facing something that is going to impact our life even more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 61st of Colors of Web3 and Entrepreneurship. My name is Lum, your Web3 host. For those of you who are new to the show, Colors of Web3 and Entrepreneurship is a show highlighting the journeys of builders and innovators in Web3 and entrepreneurship. Some topics, especially in Web3, may get technical, but we do our best to keep it accessible for most people. Here I am today. I'm joined by Jean Herelle. He's the CEO of CrunchDAO. Jean, could you give a quick introduction by yourself?
Hey Lam, very nice to be here today. I am Jean, I'm CEO and founder of CrunchDAO. And yeah, happy to deep dive in Crunch today.
Nice, cool. Yeah, so I think many people will probably be very curious about like what you did before, you set up the company, before you founded the company. Feel free to pick a timeline, whether it's like after undergraduate or whatever the point of you think have the most like impact in your life, and then walk us forward, I guess, since that point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a background in econometrics and stats, and then I did an exchange in Taiwan when I was 22, I think, and this is where I actually where my journey in crypto actually started. It was in 2014, and at that moment in Taiwan, an event happened. There was a political event, an issue between China and Taiwan, and for that reason, the student went in the street and actually even blocked the parliament, etc. And so me, I was just an exchange student on that campus, but you could see a lot of tension, and some of the students, and especially from the computer science side of the university, were holding a stand, if you want, where they were talking about Bitcoin, and they were kind of explaining that Bitcoin would be the only opportunity for you to keep your wealth in the case where China would have invaded Taiwan and maybe block your account, your asset, if you were someone that was part of the protest at that moment. And so it was a real use case. So very interesting to see this like real use case happening. And so it made a lot of sense to me to start researching the field of cryptocurrencies, of Web3, starting 2014. So after that, I went back to France and decided to study computer science full time this time, and maybe go away from statistics and econometrics. And when you are in this time, 2018, and you have this background in stats and computer science, then you naturally end up in the infancy of machine learning that was happening in 2018. It was easier to get access to some of the graphic cards that enable you to train locally deep neural nets and model that were more challenging to train before. So a lot of new application. We were pushing the boundaries in many fields at that moment. And so it was a very interesting time to be there, and I naturally end up in that spot. And so my first, while I was studying, I was also working for an insurance broker for who I was building risk model using machine learning. So I was basically doing classification of, what kind of risk we were taking in the portfolio, and what kind of customer were joining the portfolio. And so it works pretty well because the data was actually pretty clean and pretty easy to handle, and so it was a very good use case for that time. And so this company got acquired by the European leader in insurance brokerage back then, And I ended up starting this new venture with my previous boss, who was the boss of this insurance broker. And I basically wanted to see if we could use the same kind of technique that we were using for in what we were doing to financial markets. And so we started studying the field in 2018 or 19. And so I tried building the same kind of model than what I was doing in the insurance industry. And that was a complete nightmare. It was absolutely like impossible. It very poorly worked, because what people don't realize is that this financial data is extremely competitive, extremely noisy. There is a lot of different competitors, a lot of different people working on trying to extract information, and it's a dynamic system. If someone is doing something, then it's changing something in another system, and so it's very, very complex and almost impossible actually to predict. And that's why it's a very complex system, and by definition, the complex systems are not predictable. And so we had to come up with new ways, new rationale to do things, and it was very challenging on my own. So I decided to organize a first event where I would ask a machine learning engineer basically to help me build the model. And back then we were like inspired by some other machine learning community like Quantopian, Kaggle, Numerai. You had this like kind of large hackathon that were only online and that were always going on, And so I found it absolutely fascinating, the opportunity for us to get help from people on the internet. It was a very beginning, and so we rigged that up, and we ended up with about 14 people. So like nobody almost came, we were just like a bunch of people, and out of the 14, maybe like 10 actually submitted a model. But the interesting thing is that these 10 models, when put together, were already better than what I would have built by my own. So at that moment, we kind of clicked on the fact that there was something interesting here, and maybe that the problem we were facing was a problem that maybe other research team, and especially in finance, were actually facing. And so it made a lot of sense. I think we often don't realize what's the job of a machine learning engineer, and we believe that it's just a plug and play kind of activity where you just like take a model on Hugging Face or somewhere, then you plug it, and then it works, and then it's super easy, and then that's fine. It's actually not the case. You have to really understand the underlying mathematics to build the best model out there. So you'll be able to do something, of course, but if you're evolving in a very competitive landscape, like finance, you will need to have the best model, or you will have to go very deep, or you have to work with some form of data that nobody else have. And so you really have to craft that form of superiority. And so with Crunch, we build a machine learning DePIN protocol that is composed of now 7,000 machine learning engineers. We have about 1,200 PhD on Crunch. And what this protocol is doing is allowing any company that is facing this kind of problem to upload an obfuscated version of their dataset on the platform. And on the other side, you have instantly 100, if it's not 1,000, of machine learning engineers that will start building models on top of your data. So it's a way for you to build a better model at a cheaper cost and of higher quality, because by doing that, you also mix a lot of different set of skills and talent that you would not have access if you were trying to hire them. And that's a very interesting place to be now.
Yeah. Wow, super interesting. Yeah, thanks for walking us through your brief history there. So I guess, is it fair to say that you kind of encountered blockchain first when you were in Taiwan during your exchange semester? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Who like, or did someone introduce you to any blockchain concept, or did you just come across it through some forum group? Or yeah.
So on the stand that was on the campus, you had 1 ounce of gold and one USB key that was containing one Bitcoin. And so that was basically the example that they were giving to everyone, like, what would you choose between the two? And then the discussion was starting about, okay, this is safer, this is etc. and etc. And yeah, it's for me at first. I obviously choose the gold because I didn't know what was a Bitcoin back then.
Yeah.
So that was what was the intent. Actually, they wanted you to choose the gold so they could start speaking about what was in the USB key and how interesting it was. And so on the spot, I was like, okay, interesting, and let me think about it. But at night, this day, I remember that I was particularly, I just geeked a lot on it at that moment, and I realized that the community behind it was already massive. There were a lot of interesting concepts, from cyberpunks to like so very very interesting. And the following days, I went to this comic shop that was having a screen that was just rigged to a computer where you could buy crypto with cash, actually. And that was this is how I bought actually my first Bitcoin back then.
Nice.
And then
what year was this? This is like 2015?
2014.
14, okay.
Yeah. So like very, very early. I didn't realize that it was that early back then. But yeah, the use case was obvious. So it was making a lot of sense for them back then to have a form of digital cash that was not controlled neither by the state, neither by the bank, that could be corrupted in an event of an invasion of Taiwan. And I think this is even like still relevant today, actually.
Nice. Yeah, well, super interesting. Yeah, I think we have gone a long way since then, I'm sure. Yeah, with now, like, even in 2025 now, we have like some Bitcoin layer 2s, and people are trying to program on Bitcoin as well. So yeah, well, things have, I think, certainly changed quite a lot since 2014. Yeah, but I think since 2014, so I guess you have lived through like 3 cycles, right? At least of the
I've seen all of them.
Bubble.
Yeah. I'm getting used to I'm getting used to this. And but it's always technology is evolving in cycles anyway, right? You have to build and come with the next generation of things, and it start with actually start pretty pragmatic with Bitcoin, but then I think we all with Ethereum and I think the second wave in crypto came from the capability of building decentralized applications, and from the decentralized applications, then we had all different kind of vertical that started to be created, and now we end up in an environment that is extremely rich, where you can find almost all the vertical of the real economy being represented, and this I think happened in at least 2 or 3 cycles.
Yeah, for sure. I think I mean, I remember. Well, I'm sure I joined crypto quite late. I mean, I only discovered around like, I actually knew about it back in 2017, 16, but I didn't have any idea. Just like what was Bitcoin? I only heard about it and then saw the price, but I didn't really have any interest. And then 2020, deep dive a bit into it, and then that's when I really deep dive into Web3 and crypto, and saw the technology, and I really saw kind of the the parallel between how the internet back in the early 2000 and then Web3. I saw a lot of the similarity there, so I think I took a deep dive, big interest into it.
It makes a lot of sense, and I think there is as well, there's a different like generation of web as well, which the first web was about companies creating content and making money out of it, and then you had people creating content on internet and making money out of it, and these big corporations are making a lot of money out of it, and now we come in Web3, where people are creating content, but they also make money out of it. And so we kind of remove also the large corporation from that. And that's, I think, a very interesting use case in Web3, where we can keep the ownership of the things that we're building on the internet, and we can secure it, and we can have this this tool that can enable trust between people that never meet each other. And that's really, I think, the meaning of blockchain, in the sense of decentralized applications and things like that. And for me, to be honest, I kind of lose sight at a moment where, okay, I was still holding Bitcoin, but it was, in portfolio like that. I made a lot of mistake back then because from Bitcoin, then we had other payment rail that kind of appeared, and so other project were wanted to disrupt basically the PayPal of internet. And so back then I traded my Bitcoin for all the projects that were positioning themselves from this vertical. So it was, for example, XRP, Stellar back then. So super early as well. Then NeoGas, I remember NeoGas back then. And who else? And then I kind of lost a lot of the value of the initial Bitcoin that I had, but that's part of the cycle. And so at that moment, I kind of lose sight, went back into machine learning a lot. And in this cycle, in this winter, I was really focusing on machine learning. And because there were a lot of work and good application, it was fascinating as well what was happening there. And then it's only in 2020 when we restarted to use a community that I realized that maybe, by seeing what Numerai was doing as well and other projects, I was like, okay, maybe crypto is one of the best way to, and it is, I truly believe that, to create this layer of trust between people that never met each other. And so that will be the best way to orchestrate a protocol where people will feel okay in sharing, in building models for another, for a protocol, for a decentralized protocol, because they are sure that they will get a grasp at whatever the value is created, whatever the upside is. And so really in the direction that what I was mentioning in my vision of Web3, where you're creating things and you are also getting the fair share of whatever has been created out of this, and this is secure, transparent, and so this ownership, I think, is a very important cycle that enables a lot of use cases that human didn't thought about it.
Yeah, for sure, certainly. I think there's a book written recently, I think by one of the VC, right? Read Write On. Yeah, that's quite. I think he captured it quite well. The whole idea of like Web 1, where you can only read. Web 2, you can read and write, like interact. But then Web 3 is like when you can actually take the true ownership of it. And I think we both very fascinated by the technology of what Web 3 can to enable for humanities. Yeah.
I think there is one argument I love is that everything is about coordination, and humanity tried many different types of coordination, and among the years, in thousands of years that we are on this planet. So we try many things. The most recent experiment are communism and capitalism, and it's actually all a large coordination scheme. And this is what money is and capitalism is. If you're creating value for the others, and then you are getting richer. And so it's all about, it's an incentive mechanism, right? You have you're getting if you create value. And so that's also why we created large gap between the different strata of the society as well, is that in the generation of our parents, you were running a business that had an impact, in the village, or maybe the 2 or 3 village around, the 2 or 3 towns maybe around. But I don't know, you were crafting steel, or you were, building things. So your impact was you were creating value for a smaller group of people. And what internet enabled is that people that are creating value now have the opportunity to create value for an enormous amount of people, like billions of people. If you look at companies like Meta, or it created this opportunity and this kind of bias in capitalism, where now we can create value for so much people, for everyone on the planet, that it creates this very large incentive in doing so, and in building business on the internet, because it's a great way to reach a lot of people. And what is amazing with blockchain is that we are touching this new coordination and this new orchestration mechanism that was not experimented before, and it's very powerful. If you see what's happening in on internet, and in Web3 is you have this swarm of people that you can coordinate to do a task or do some stuff, and it's everything is working with micro transactions. So you have this kind of micro capitalism that is at works, and that is super fast, and that is trusted, and that is going to enable so many use cases, and now it's also breaching in the real world with the DePIN protocol, where you can orchestrate physical things, even human in our case, when you have machine learning engineer to create value, all together at a larger scale, because we can coordinate and then touch a lot of people and have a big impact.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a beauty of blockchain. Before we deep dive into the company, just one fun question that I think I'm curious about. Since you being a very busy man, can you share with us what you do for fun? Your hobbies outside of work?
Yeah. Well, I like to run. I like to travel as well. My family is in Europe, and so for me it's good to go back sometime. And yeah, that's it. I think my if you have the chance to be able to mix your work and your passion, then work is not as it's not a painful thing, and so you become passionate about what you're building. And so the good time is, I don't know, taking coffee or tea and just reading through some documentation, or reading through some books that inspire me from other builders, or reading through this kind of thing. So I guess, the hobby is about thinking about what I love, but doing it in a more in a slower kind of fashion.
Nice. Yeah. I think many of my guests also have also say that when you mix the hobbies, Web3, and then over to work, you don't actually feel it like work. Yeah, it's just more enjoyable.
I think my hobby then it's slowing down. When you can take your time, and it's it's finally the weekend. You're still looking at the things you love, but you do this in a slower way, and I enjoy that, because you can think deeper about everything. So.
That's true. Yeah, in this day of hyper acceleration, I think sometimes just sit back and reflection, on what's going on.
I mean,
you have learned this.
I have my bookmarks are just exploding, and that's the only moment where I can sit is probably in the weekend, and go through the readings that I wanted to do, and that's fascinating, and this I want to know, and what those guys are doing, and etc. And especially now we are the junction of two fields that are moving a lot. Like on one hand, we have crypto, because coordinating everyone through this mechanism, so much to see, so much to learn, so many new orchestration mechanism and new tokenomics that are super interesting. And on the other hand, you have machine learning, which is literally 300 or 400,000 research papers that are published every year on archive on this subject. So there is no way you're reading everything anyway, but it's a small batch that arrives to you, like you have to read it. So there's a lot of information out there, and it's good to take time and be able to go through it.
For sure, yeah. Information is quite a lot now to filter it, right? Because I think there's also a lot of noise as well too. You want to filter.
Exactly. And it takes time to also do this selection. 100%.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. Without further ado, let's go ahead and deep dive into your current company, Crunch. Yeah. And feel free to share any presentation or website or anything that you have in mind.
Yeah. Well, we have right now at Crunch, we have this platform where so anyone can, if you have a machine learning background, or if you're interested in math, stats, and you want to craft your skills, or even better, I think that the idea between Crunch is to provide a new way of creating maybe some kind of side revenue, let's say, where you will be pushing code to a protocol, and this code is connected to some economical use cases. So you're creating value by doing what you love the most, and often is for the crunchers, how we call the people that are on our platform, it's to crunch numbers, so build a model. And I don't know if you have a background where you you touch a bit of tech, or if you coded in your life. But that's also a very nice moment that I miss a lot, is when you can sit back, have a tea, and work on some code base that you restart from zero. Like you are not in this jungle of code, and you just sit and say, okay, I'm going to do this little project on the side, and that's very relaxing, and that's very nice. And I think that's kind of what we provide as well to the cruncher. So we have this new way, if you want, where instead of participating in these kind of things and trying to get a job, what we try to provide is the opportunity to never have to work anymore. Because if your model is being connected to some heavy financial use case, and I'm talking about the hedge fund industry, I'm talking about healthcare, I'm talking about energy, I'm talking about this kind of very deep tech kind of places where your algorithm can help a lot. And if you manage to be good at it, then the opportunity for you is literally to just sit back and let the protocol run your model, and you would receive your incentives every week.
Nice.
And yeah, it's a new way if you want to generate side revenue, and for those guys that are very talented at it. Sometimes it's something that they're doing on the weekend, or something that they're doing, at night. And for some lucky few, now it's an opportunity to literally stop working, and that's the case for a few people on Crunch now. And so yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Like you have data sets that you can access on the platform, and each data set is about a different vertical or different use case. And you have all the time you want to build a good model, then push your code, and then you will be connected to the client use case. And so every week you will receive a score on the scoring that the client did of your model. And so you'll be able to know if your model is working well or not, and then you can upload something new, or you can leave it there. And then you have some fun things where you can stake on your own model, so you can demultiply your reward, and all these kind of things that are possible in Web3 that are very, very, very nice. When we have so that's the entry points for people that know how to code, that know how to build model. Then we build also a second entry points that are for people that don't have the skills, but that can be very useful for us as well. So one thing that is very interesting is that you have the power of models is huge. It's very important in the loop, but there is another component, which is data. So the capability of building great predictive insight is relying a lot on the quality of data, especially in finance. If you try to use public data, it will be very hard to extract any information about the market, because all the information, and that's also the theory of market efficiency, where all the information that is available is already incorporated in the price, because there is so many participants that are looking at it. And very high tech company, like you have quant fund in New York that have 100, 200 quants behind heavy doors, and that have been doing that since the 90s. So they've been gathering data that nobody has. They've been doing this work with very, very smart people, going very deep inside data sourcing and then modeling on top of it. And so now what we've been finding that is very interesting is that we could use the crowd to generate new time series. So time series are just data that is evolving in time. So for example, the temperature out there, like the weather, is a time series, right? What's the temperature in time? So you have two elements. You have a time and you have a value. That's called a time series, and it's a very interesting kind of data. And what we built is a way for anyone to help us build new kind of time series. And I can show it to you, because I think this is this is an interesting thing for people that are coming from the Web3 crowd. So what is happening here is that if you come to pi.crunchDAO.com, you can generate a trading signal on the fly. So the way we're doing that is you will ask a question, so a prompt, to our LLM, and this question is going to be asked to all the document that the LLM will be able to find in the context that we are providing. And this question could be, I don't know, how defensive was the language against Bitcoin, let's say, or how hawkish was the central bank. There is many different questions you could ask there. You can be as creative as you want, and here there is no more barrier between extracting financial information and your ability to create new idea and new prompts. It's just a question. And if you look at the leaderboard and what kind of question people have been coming with, this one, for example, is a very interesting use case. So let's just look at the question.
So this is a question that some user came up with, is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
So the question is, to what degree did the statement assess the potential for a resurgence of protectionist policies? So what we're trying to do here with this question is that we're trying to use the intuition of the LLM to score between 1 and 5 what is the potential for resurgence of protectionist policies in the US. So the model is going to look at all that and it's going to put a score at each date between 1 and 5. And so this is the orange line that you are seeing here. And so you see that you can also explore if you want to go for deeper analysis here.
Is 5 more risky, or 5 is like good fit, or what's the skill here?
No, 5 is there is more chance of resurgence of protectionist policies.
I see. Okay, so more likely, yeah.
Yeah, more likely. And then what's interesting is that we are automatically running this time series against all the economical indicator that we can find out there. And this is automatically finding correlation between your question, so your intuition, and some leading economic indicator. So here we see that the chance of resurgence of protectionist policies is correlating with the return of the tech industry. So QQQ is a tech ETF. And so here we just find that when the model think that there is chance for protectionist policies, you should invest in tech industry in the US, because it means that this sector is correlated with the chance of resurgence of protectionist policy. So here we just find a new time series that doesn't exist in any data set from any data vendor, that is completely new, and that is yours, right? And it also correlates with gold, which makes sense, right? And I mean, this is invaluable. Being able to extract thousands of questions like that, and maybe hundreds of thousands of new time series, is invaluable. And so what we're doing now is that we're speaking with hedge funds in New York, and we are showing them these kind of time series that they don't have. And so now what's going to happen is that the same way as some machine learning engineers are now making side revenue on the platform by pushing their machine learning code, people can get side revenue from just asking a question that generated a time series that is now being used by hedge fund.
Oh, I see. So a user asks a question, and then the time series like automatically generated from, I think I saw on the 2014, right, up until present day or something like that. Interesting.
Yeah, 2014. And so since we can go past in time, what's happening here is that we are extracting information from the past. It's like going back in time, with a machine, and asking the question to the document that you could find back then. And asking the model if he thinks that it's going to be some protectionist policies. And the model is answering you, and then you're moving in time and is answering you again for every date in time. So it created time series now, a number that is evolving in time. And when you have a time series, then you can look at correlation with other time series. And so you are extracting some information by knowing that these two time series are correlated now, because we know that now I can use that in a trading system where every day, I'm going to use the same prompt inside the same model, and I'm going to get that number. When this number is going up, it means that I should invest into tech. When this number is going down, I should not. And then when you multiply this kind of information by thousands of questions, we received about 36,000 questions now on the platform. Now think about when we're going to be at 1 million questions, when we're going to be at 10 million questions.
36,000 questions per day, per month, per year?
No, in total. In total, we have 36,000 questions since we launched that in October. So it's been 4 months. It's been 4 months now. And so,
how is the score super rated on that? Just curious. I saw the score on the right column over there.
Yeah. This is basically looking at your correlation with the time series. So we look at two things. At the moment for scoring, we look at your correlation, obviously. So the more correlation you have, the stronger the correlation, and the more correlation you have with the economic indicator, the higher your score. And the uniqueness, so we are looking at how original is your question using vectors there. So we compare your question with all the other questions that have been asked. So you have to come with something that is original and that is new, right? Otherwise, you don't add more information to what we already extracted, right? And then that's it. That's enough. That's enough. But honestly, I think we are still willing to make this score evolve. But for the moment, it works pretty well because it does the job of extracting what we want, which is finding some interesting use case. And yeah, there is plenty actually. Whew, this one is massive.
Oh, wow.
And it's very funny. Like I really invite you guys to spend some time here, because now what we're going to do is we're going to secure each question, each of your questions. So if you look at my history now, that's my question. I have 17 pi points and etc. And so you see, I'm not really good at it. It's pretty hard actually.
Yeah.
And so now these are my questions. They're going to be secured by a private key. And so I'm sure that I'm going to be the owner of that time series forever. And so if I'm being used by a hedge fund forever, then it also means that I'm going to get money forever for that exact question. And this is very, very valuable.
I see. But typically, like is there like a prompt or something, right? Like a topic, right? Like the FOMC or something, right? That people read and then try to formulate. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So for the moment, we started with central bank data because we had to start with something. We didn't want it to, and also it takes time to do the data acquisition and put that in the context and etc. So now we've been focusing on, for the moment, you can ask a question about central bank statements. So the goal is to extract macro kind of factors and information about the inflation, etc. Now, what we're coming with this month is we are incorporating equity data. And this is going to be really, really interesting because we are incorporating millions of hours of TV inside the system. So now you'll be able to ask a question to all the TV shows that are basically going on TV, and more specifically the financial ones. So I'm talking about Bloomberg, I'm talking about BBC, I'm talking about CNBC, talking about this kind of show. So you'll be able to ask a question about what was on TV, and the goal is to extract information to what is on TV, and maybe now we will be able to automatically ask that question to what's happening on TV at every time of the day to power some trading behind. So Crunch is really, this is why I call it an ML DePIN protocol. The goal is to create this collective intelligence system where we can generate value by being together. So in that hands, we generate value because nobody can hire people that will be asking 36,000 questions, right? And it's just, this works well on internet, but it will never work in a traditional company. And And it's the same thing for the machine learning part, where what's very powerful for us is to receive 100 and maybe sometimes 1,000 of models, because like I told you, in complex system theory, you cannot predict the system. So there is only some weak, some very weak learner that you can build. So you can learn the little things about this system, but you will never understand the overall system, right? Because the system is too complex. It's billion of humans at works, all resuming one number for every companies in the world. Can you imagine just a simple impact on a tanker because of something happened in the North Sea will change, the price of some companies operating on these sectors? Or this is uncontrollable. There is too many parameters. So the only thing you can do is trying to predict some small part of it. And so this is what we are doing by having thousands of people. Everyone is trying to predict a small part of it. And if we become big enough, then everyone is going to pick on something small in the market. And then we will be able to really predict the overall picture, because we have thousands, tens of thousands, maybe one day, of people that are trying to model this small effect. And
I
it's
see.
pretty much like when you look at an avalanche, it's impossible, very, very hard to predict avalanche. They are another famous complex system, and it can be triggered by so many things. It can be a bird passing there, some winds, a change of temperature somewhere, like the branch of a tree falling at the place, or it's an animal just passing on the snow at that moment. It's unpredictable. How can you predict that? I don't know. This fox is going to pass there at that moment and trigger all cataclysm. It's impossible. And the only way is to have a lot of sensors that are all trying to pick up on one thing. So someone's job is going to monitor only the fox activity. It's part of the system. So we need someone that kind of can predict it. And yeah, if we manage to do that, then we will find very, very interesting things, and this community is going to be thriving.
Yeah, super fascinating. I think you just reminded me of like a concept called like the wisdom of the crown, right? Where
Yes,
like one
exactly.
person might not have the answer, but like when you use a collective intelligence, like a mode of view or wisdom of the crown, as they say, then you can get closer to the correct answer, right? We don't know what the correct answer is, but you just get closer to it.
Yeah, there is some very interesting example there. The one I love to give is Kasparov against the world, which was an experiment of Microsoft that happened at one of the first chess software of Microsoft back then. Not one of the first, but it was one that enabled like multiplayers and some new functionality, and they wanted to demo that, and so they organized this game between Kasparov, the grandmaster, the chess grandmaster, against 50,000 people around the world. And so the game was done as follow. You had a chat box, and people could propose the next move, and people could vote for the next move and kind of discuss why it was interesting. So you had 50,000 people in the chat, and you had this move, and you could vote. Super interesting. And on the other hand, you had Kasparov that was playing against that. And the game ended up in a draw but Kasparov came out of this game with one of the longest book about one game in the chess literature. So it's the longest book about one chess game, and he's talking about this game as one of the most interesting he never played, because the originality of the move and the level that was up there was two level of a grandmaster. When you know what is a grandmaster, it's absolutely epic. Like it's like far from the rest of the humanity. So there were almost like zero chance that the other people would have been able to actually beat him. But this is another example where a large group of people can beat the masters things because they come with original idea and original move that nobody has. And that's a very, very interesting thing. And this is exactly what's happening in Crunch when you have a large financial institution that is looking at this data, that is trading hundreds of millions on these kind of assets, and to who we provide the opportunity to find this new idea and play with this 50,000 kind of chess player. It brings a lot of information to them, and it creates a lot of value. And this is why they're paying Crunch and the Cruncher through the platform to do this work of pushing models or creating time series, because collective intelligence is is creating value by bringing more value, by bringing more people together, by bringing people from different backgrounds. When you are finally having someone with someone from physics is looking at your data is going to have a different approach than someone from bioengineering or someone for pure mathematics, or they all have different techniques. And data science is actually, it's part of all the scientists stack. When you are scientists, you are just looking at data. You just look at different type of data depending on what kind of science you're doing. So you have different techniques, and with Crunch, we enable our customer to have a grasp at all these techniques at once eventually, and this is very, very powerful for them.
Nice. Yeah. Could you elaborate a bit more on your customers? And so I think you said saying like hedge fund and how they potentially want to use this or like,
we have. So we work with financial institutions right now. We have a very good market fit now on this space, and there's two reasons for that. Number one, they have money, so they can pay for this kind of service. Number two, they are very data. I want to say kind of data aware or data ready, because they started doing this in the 90s. So you talk to people that have already implemented a very strong data pipeline, data infrastructures that are already gathering data. So they have data sets that have 10 years, 20 years sometimes, if it's not 30 years, now even 40 for the largest data set, 40 to 50 years of history. And so that's amazing. You mentioned the cycle in crypto. It's the same thing in the real economy. You have like industries that goes and up and down because of
cycles,
different. Exactly. So think about, now we learn a lot from the 3 cycles that we had in crypto. I say even more 2 maybe. Imagine what you can learn and how smart you could be if you already had like 10 of these, 10 or 15 of these for each of the different verticals that we have in crypto, and this is what you have when you have a data set that is 50 years long. You have all this data. There is even like data sets that are going very far, where they manage to figure out and find and reconstruct, for example, the inflation in the 13th century in UK. So it's like 800 years of inflation data, basically. So they look at humanity from another scale, from another distance. If you have the time for you know that, you learn a lot of things. And so this industry is a strong data monopoly and is holding on very strong data set. And so it's very interesting for them and for us to be in that place, because like I told you, there is 2 parts in building great predictions and great and understanding the future of what's coming up. It's great modeling and great data sets. And so those guys have the best data sets in the world, and they can afford it. And they have sometimes 50 people in one bank that are only responsible of data acquisition. They're just looking at everything that's out there, and they'll try to buy any form of data that can help them. And so, this industry is a strong market fit for us. Now we've been starting to expand, and we had this amazing use case now on the platform. From the Eric and Wendy Smith Center at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard. And what we're doing there is in the machine learning for healthcare. And I don't know if you've seen the news recently, but there is a lot of advancement there. And especially in the field of computer vision and gene sequencing. And so what we do for the Broad Institute, we help them in predicting the probability of the expression of some genes by looking at cells images. And so you can find the cell images on the platform, you can build a model on it, and then you push your code, and then every time there are new entries and new entries in the data set, you've been scored against these new images if you're good at predicting the expression of these genes. And so this is our first use cases, and we are already pushing the level of the state of the art with the community at the moment. So it's super. It's really a success already. Then we had amazing use cases with the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, which is which had this research lab, very powerful group of scientists, amazing researcher with Nobel laureate and things like that. And so we work with Guido Imbens and Marco Lopez de Prado, Guido Imbens being a Nobel laureate of economy, to help the community in building causal AI, to causal discovery models. And so what is causal discovery model? And I don't want to go too much into maybe the machine learning stack, but the current models are working only with correlation, right? So we look at why two things are correlating and we take a decision based on that. And causality, like the name says, is you really try to understand, okay, there is a sense between this correlation, or is it just a pure use correlation, meaning it's just a random correlation, right? Or there is not an impact between one another. And the best example there is the number of people that are unfortunately drowning every year, and the number of ice cream that is being sold is very correlated, right? Because it's happening both in summer, but there is no meaning, right? It's not because you're going to stop selling ice cream that people, are going to survive more this kind of event. And so, that was a very interesting use case. And so that was done with the ADIA lab, the research lab of the sovereign wealth funds in Abu Dhabi. And then we have smaller entities. It's relative. I'm talking about mid-size asset managers that are managing between 10 to 20 billion dollar. And so these people are called mid-size asset managers. So it's smaller asset managers that sometimes have more difficulty than the larger asset manager that are 60, 100 billions, etc., to attract the best talent. Because now there is this kind of war on trying to get the best machine learning engineer, because there is so much to extract from all this data that if you have the best, then you will create a lot of value. And since it's very competitive on the market, and there is a lot of insight to do that. And so for them, it's a great Crunch is a great tool because they can access. It's a new channel to access a lot of talents, and sometimes the talent are really not where we believe they are. And this is always been true at Crunch, is that you see people that don't have the opportunity because they are not born in the US. They are not born close to this kind of center where you can have job in machine learning and etc. But that's still extremely talentful and extremely good. And so I love that at Crunch when I see people that are coming from this region of the world where talent exists, and talent is evenly distributed in humanity, right? There is the same amount of very smart people in every country and in every place of the world, but the opportunities are not. Opportunities are concentrated, in the US and maybe a little bit in Europe. Whereas with Crunch, what's amazing is that we can connect these opportunities from the US with people that are in other part of the world that maybe don't have them. And I think that's another amazing externalities, and this is why we have a lot of success in Asia. And I'm very proud of that. And I think it's a great enabler, and both our customer and user are gaining value from Crunch. That's a very nice place to be. We just we provide value to both sides.
Fascinating. Yeah, sounds like you cracked some of the very important use cases. Yeah, through your platform, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say crack, because it's always you always have more to understand. Now we have a strong traction in the financial industry, and so this is also why we are taking this step toward more decentralization, because the core team cannot follow the rhythm of the people that want to use the platform. And so now we want to create these new roles in the community where we can have other people that can also help in onboarding clients, in doing this coordination job of having people understand the platform, until we have a UX that is so simple, and a system that is so simple that anyone, any small machine learning engineer team inside a hedge fund will be able to launch a Crunch and connect to the community. That's really the destination. And so we have a lot of work on that front to try to make things simpler, to remove as much as Web3 as possible. We believe it's an enabler, but we are not, that's not our core business. For us, it's just enabling the trust mechanism that makes everyone connect and work on Crunch. But in the end, having too much of Web3 upfront and too much complexity upfront is slowing down the acquisition of both customers eventually and Cruncher as well. So that's the two things that we need to crack, I think, this year to make sure that Crunch is very successful. But yeah, in terms of use cases, we see a clear path towards people that have data monopoly and that want to use the platform.
Nice, interesting. Yeah, so I guess he's company with huge data, right? They bring in the data and
exactly
access the collective intelligence from your platform, and then they can probably unlock like new insights, right? Yeah, to solve certain problem.
Exactly, and so there is one piece that is important to outline here is there is a privacy step that is important to take, because those people that are owning large amount of data, they don't want basically to lose it. If you share it openly on a platform, then now everyone has this data, right? So you kind of lose it and you can give it away. And so what Crunch is enabling as well is that we propose these very simple privacy enhancing techniques that you can run on top of data to remove all the meaning of data, remove all chances to understand what the data is about. But you keep the mathematical relationship inside the data. And so by doing this, you enable the sharing of the data. And if you enable the sharing of the data, it's really where the magic happens, because you can finally have thousands of people crunching your data without losing it. And so that's also a very important step in Crunch.
I see. Cool. Yeah. When you say the privacy enhancing technique, anything in particular, like some
we use
mathematics or something?
No, it's not advanced mathematics. I mean, depends. So every customer can use the technique he wants to use to obfuscate their data, right? We are not enforcing that, but we are doing some recommendation. And so sometime in some use case on which we had the ability to choose the technique, we always recommend differential privacy. Differential privacy, it's very simple, is you are removing the meaning of the data. So one very interesting example is what Peter has been building for a product that is a mid-market price that we're selling to banks. And this is the way we transform the data, which is market data. It's pretty funny. I mean, you got this idea where it's a game and you have doves and hawk and you have an electric wire, right? And so the birds are traveling next to the wire, but basically the dove are bid offer. And so it's basically, you have to predict where the birds are going, but the birds are actually orders on the market. So you have no idea. You cannot go back to what kind of asset we're working on, right? You cannot know what we're working on, because the game is looking, and there is a very good movie on that called, you remember Ender's Game? I don't know if you've seen it.
Game. I have not seen that movie.
It's a pretty old movie, but basically the kids are playing a video game, and actually behind the video game there is a real world war, and they don't realize that they're actually playing a game, but they're actually operating a robot in a war, a very serious war, but it looks like a game. And it's pretty much what Crunch is doing when I'm talking about differential privacies. You turn something into a mathematical abstraction of it, which is this trying to predict where the birds are going, but when you predict where the birds are going, you're actually predicting where the price of this asset is going. And so the bank can use that without losing their data, because we transform it. That's called differential privacy. And so it's not that mathematics, it's more like creative, let's say. There is a bit of mathematics sometimes involved, obviously, and make sure that things can be used after the transformation, but it's more of a creative exercise. And I found this part absolutely fascinating. And the solution Peter found with the birds is, for example, is so elegant and very, very, and very interesting to me.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's like first time I heard of that example. I have heard of differential privacy before. I've never actually tried to apply or learn it though. So that sounds like something that's...
There is another example, for example, that comes from Apple. Apple is using it they are replacing some comments with emoji, for example, or this kind of things, and you completely remove the meaning, but you know that, this emoji is the one that corresponds the most to this comment, and so now you have some expression of, what the people are saying without giving away what the people actually said. And so this is also a very interesting use case. I love it.
Fascinating. Cool. Yeah. So I'm curious a bit about like the what the potential. I mean, you did mention about like people, user and also the model builders can also earn a pretty good like size revenue, right? Potential as like a side business or something, side hobby. What would be the potential earning, whatever, for a good ranking question or like a good model that's been submitted?
You say, what's a good ranking?
Yeah, no. What would be like a good? What is like a potential earning for any of these user cruncher? Yeah, the one who build the model.
Yeah, we have a bunch of. I mean, you can actually see it from directly from the website here. So we are working on the UX, so we can actually show the old UX, but now we have. For the moment, everything is behind a login, so people cannot see what Crunch is building. But this is currently changing, and so everyone will be able to see the difference.
I see. So I guess the rewards would be like particular to that individual, right?
Yeah. It's particular to the individual, and it's also particular to the use case. And you have also sometimes different type of reward inside each use cases. So it can be. I think the best way to show it is the best way to express it is to show it. But we have some people that now have having pretty cool rewards. So let me show you. For example, this is a market neutral hedge fund that is. Let me see. Yes. So here you can see directly the type of reward. The reward are distributed every week.
Oh, I see.
So some people are making pretty substantial amount of money here.
Oh wow, that's for one person, right? Or one team, I guess.
Yeah. No, one person. Yeah, sometimes you have teams, but some people Tarant Ross is been a very, very good player. So yeah, he had a lot of reward. And here we're seeing the top of the leaderboard. So some people that are extremely good at it. And so here you see there is a reward for different predictions. So prediction B is a prediction of something that is happening at 3 months. Prediction G is happening, I think it's 2 months. R is 1 month, and W is 1 week, basically. And so you have the different game inside the game. And it's kind of the same thing if you go back to the hub. We have the same thing for the healthcare work that we're doing, where there is $50,000 to win, and where we work on predicting gene. Mid one is what I described with the birds, where you have to predict where the birds is going, and we believe that there is eventually $1 billion opportunity here that will be distributed to the community when this is running live, and once we have enough customer on top of it, it's a very, very powerful use case. And of course, and so quick look at the platform. You have mathematical duties, civilian duties. We have some quests. We are hosting votes as well for the DAO side of things. And but we have a complete new UX coming, and the website's going to look much better now.
Nice. Interesting. Yeah. So I saw that like some of the price being paid out through USDC. Is it on what blockchain is that on?
We are building on Solana now.
Solana, nice. Okay.
Interesting. We're building on Solana now. We just joined the Solana incubator, by the way, in New York.
Oh, really?
So it's amazing for us.
That's awesome.
We're meeting with great builders there. There is an amazing a group of entrepreneurs, and learning a lot. So Solana is going to be the stack we choose, and we for the moment we distribute USDC, and I think we will continue to do so, because there is one mistake that happened a lot in DePIN or in this kind of protocol, where protocols are distributing the rewards in their own token, with their own token, and if you do this, you create your own selling pressure, because people are receiving the token and they are selling it on the market, and so it makes no sense except if you have no cash flow. In that case, it's a good proxy for the cash flow, where you can distribute like stake token until the money is inside the project. But it's also a dangerous path to go, because you're distributing tokens, so the tokens are leaking out there, and so people are waiting for the money to get in the project, and if it never gets in, then basically you destroy your token. We don't want to do that, so we want to keep the reward distributed in USDC, because it makes things much more anchored in reality, and that's very important for us.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. Yeah. So that, I mean, just reduce any of the selling pressure, and also just something stable is also quite important, right? Yeah, for user. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Can you share with me like how many people behind your company at the moment?
Yeah, we have about 10 people now in the company, between the engineering team. The engineering team is split in two poles. We have the finance part of it, and we have the more Web3 part of things, and the Web2 part of it that is taking care of the platform, backend, frontend, and etc. And then we have a more sales and marketing kind of part of the team, where we try to find new opportunity for the protocol, large customer, and we try to have also nice, platform and better UX. And I can tell you, for us, this is going to be very important to make sure that people, don't really see the Web3, and that is completely behind the front.
Yeah. I think many companies are heading towards that now, and then like kind of like abstracting away a lot of the Web3 complexity right behind the scene, because people, I don't think the user really care about it. They just want something that works, right, and then that achieve the objective.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Maybe. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. What would you consider be like the challenges facing your teams in pretty small team, and you guys are trying to build this very big platform? Yeah.
Well, I think actually it's sometimes good to be in a small team, because you don't have all the overhead of being like a large group of people. And so I think this is actually good, because you can keep the speed in a small team, right? You can be super efficient. Everyone is owning his own things, and you don't have to host too many meetings about things, and every vertical is doing its job and is owning his own vertical. That's actually a good thing. But I think for us, one of the main challenge would be to abstract enough of the Web3 and communicate the message that we have to the machine learning community, in order to also grow on that front. And so we are operating at the junction of machine learning and Web3. And so some people were in Web3 because of Web3, and they get passionate about that. Some people are in machine learning because they're passionate about machine learning, not because they're passionate about Web3. And so we have to make it natural for them to be on the platform and not knowing anything about Web3, because they spend so much time in researching machine learning already that they don't have a lot of mind space for doing more. So I think that's one of the big challenge for Crunch, being able to transfer the message of and distribute the vision of Web3 to machine learning engineer, and this vision of a new way of new kind of work, let's say, on internet. And I think this is going to be critical in Crunch becoming bigger and scale to more use case and more vertical. We already mentioned maybe healthcare is a great extension of industry, but logistic, energy, city planning. Everything can be used with a machine. There is models everywhere now, and if you can predict what's coming, then it's even more powerful. So you can make prediction about all sorts of things. And so we believe it's going to be also important for us to be able to have people that are coming from this specific field that know machine learning, but also come with this field, right? So machine learning engineer from logistic or from healthcare and etc. And that's super important.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I do agree that I feel like machine learning and also Web3 in general are like very general technology that can be applied on top of many different industries, right?
Yes.
Which is like the beauty of it. Yeah, it's like industry agnostic in a way. Yeah, which I
Yeah,
guess
this is,
bring me to which bring me to like the next question that I have is like how do you envision like the evolving of the Web3 and machine learning in the future, next few years? Yeah.
so I think there is two angles. I think the privacy angle is going to be a big driver of growth for machine learning for people that are, for everything related to LLMs, and the fact that we're going to have, we now have these models that can absorb a lot of data and learn from very, very large amount of information. And they are very functional and they provide very interesting, functionality, and we are all using them. So they are going, I mean, they are penetrating our life in the fastest fashion that we've never seen. Like everyone is already using LLMs now and plugging so much of their data now into them. And so the ability to create, this vision of, creating this, you kind of, smaller brother, that will know you very well and that will help you in so many smaller tasks that you have to do every day to go to that vision, and we're going there. We'll have to ingest a lot of data, and so human would have the tendency to plug it directly without even thinking about it. We're already doing it a lot with social media and etc. And so I think Web3 and cryptography could really help, that side of thing, and making sure as well that if we are in this situation and we create a dependency with this technology and this kind of smaller browser that I just mentioned, like who is going to own the pricing of this? And so if the pricing evolves, then who is going to control the training of this, and what will be his tendency to, to answer that instead of this, yellow instead of red, whatever. And this is I think this is an interesting angle, and I found it fascinating. Then the second one, I believe, is a strong one, is the one that we are in, which is the capability of orchestrating the people that are going to build this technology in a better way than being in internal team and in team that are controlled by large corporation as well. And so you already see that in the open source movement, but open source movement is also facing kind of a limit that I mentioned before, which is the data. And so if we manage to, with Crunch, enable this position where you can access data without actually seeing it and extract insight out of them, I think this is a way to orchestrate human in such a way that was not possible before, and that allow collective intelligence to go closer to what you find in open source, even if you cannot be in open source. So I think orchestration is big because now open source is being free, right? Everyone is contributing for free, but then a lot of value is kind of created out of that. And so how do we kind of capture this and put it back? Because this sector is going to be the sector that's going to create the most value in the next 15 to 20 years. And it's probably larger than internet. If you think about it, we're probably facing something that is going to impact our life even more. And so who is going to capture that value? And if the community are building this tool, then the community should be able to capture it.
Fascinating. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think one thing I'm actually quite curious, but also looking forward to in the future is like how will we have more? And also, this is a question for you too. I want to hear your take on this. Do you think we'll have more robots working than humans working in the future someday? I don't know, given whatever time frame you choose.
Well, I think that's already the case. I think that's already the case. It depends how do you define robot, and how many tasks are happening on internet every day. Every time someone is opening Netflix, there is a ranker that is been ranking your movie. So that's kind of is that a worker? Or, I don't know how to define a worker then, because they're everywhere. And I'm not even mentioning bots on social media. I'm not, every service, every API calls, every email you receive, you have algorithm everywhere. They are just robots that are, and it's digital robots, but we have already algorithm everywhere in our life. Just don't realize it, and there is much more than humans now. In the real world, that's also going to happen, but it's going to be on a much longer scale, because there is limitation there that are larger than what you find on pure digital realm, where you can scale much faster any kind of technology. And I think AI agent are a good expression of that, where we already have AI agent everywhere. It's just that they are not very sophisticated, but you have algorithm everywhere in your life. They are not as sophisticated. So this is going to be replaced by a little bit more sophisticated things. So you have a nicer experience of the overall internet space and etc. And you'll be able to also extract more information for things. And I believe that's already the case.
Interesting. Yeah. Thanks for the tech. Yeah. But I do believe that somehow in the future, if some of the AI agent, right, if they can take a physical form, as in if they can control a physical form, right, as in a real humanoid or something, then that might be, I don't know. I don't think we can even imagine what robots are capable of now. Right?
It's already the case. It's already the case. If you've been looking what Tesla have been building and etc., it's already the case. And it's already the case, and the question will be what are the costs of this machine, and is it, I think we are always thinking that the robot will be taking the cheaper work of this world, but I actually believe that it's going to be the opposite, where actually this kind of AI agent may take the more cognitive and highly paid task that we have in humanity. Which is lawyers, doctors, this kind of position, and humans are going to continue to do the law work, because do you want to have a $1 million machine that is working like a manual job? I don't think so. So until the price of this machine goes down, I think they are going to take more of the cognitive job than the cheap job. So maybe the vision is a bit reversed, because we believe that we often see, in the representation of the future, we see robot doing the cheap work, but that's probably not what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. I think soon is probably the key word, right? I feel like technology over time will be cheaper.
I do think it's happening, but it's just that it's happening faster on the digital realm. You already have digital lawyers, and you already have digital, all this is already there. So these jobs are being kind of replaced. It's just that, do we really need to replace it in the real world, and what do we really need to replace in the real world? And do you really need to have a humanoid in your office as a lawyer, or as an accountant, or as a, I don't think so. Can be just a visual on a screen. That's enough. Just get into his office, and it's gonna help you. So I think it's already happening, and humanity is going to be it's going to be creating more value anyway out of that, and because it always happened like that, and it's going to continue. And it's a great time to be alive, because we cannot predict what's happening, and at the same time we know that our generation are going to see tremendous changes, and I'm super interested, and I'm looking forward to see that. Actually, just remember one thing is that every human are built on a different hardware, and that's really the uniqueness of human is from that. And we all have a different DNA sequence, and this is a very, very powerful tool, where humans are the most innovative machine. So creativity is something that is very, 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 very strong in human, and we always find a way to survive and to adapt. And I think that's the superpower of human, and we have that over the machine, because they all born on the same hardwares and eventually on the same NVIDIA cards. Whereas we are from the very roots and hardware already all different, and that's super interesting as well.
Yeah, I think that's what makes us human, right? Yeah, robots probably not gonna be able to replicate that anytime soon, hopefully. Yeah. Anyway, so do you have any advice for people who want to build their own Web3 company, organization?
I say my advice would be to always work in try to find an ecosystem that you want to build on and build with who you are aligned with tech values and long-term direction. And I think now there is many different L1s and many different vision in each of them, and maybe different utility, different specificity, different ecosystem. And I say it's very important to be working with this, and actually now all the foundations and etc. are trying to show the long-term vision of what's the plan of that protocol in 5 to 10 years, what kind of things we want to build. And so you can really have a vision about what's coming. And so I'd say learn that, read about that, and try to get into this ecosystem and try to get the resources of this ecosystem, because a lot of them want to help, want to see new use cases. I would say do some hackathon. That's super helpful. And yeah, learn a lot, read a lot on X. There is a lot of information there, and yeah, I think that would be my advice. And build first, and then iterate, and that's the most interesting part of it.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, I think we do have like a multiple. I think compared to 2014, right, when there was probably only like Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum wasn't even born yet. And
Yeah.
Now there's like so many different layer ones, layer twos,
and there were no vision, no clear what's the direction, because everything was so primitive and so new and etc. We had no idea. And now you have the luxury to kind of look at things and say, okay, that's the kind of things I want to build. I like the vision of these teams, and these are the specificities of this and these things, and I want to build on top of it.
Yeah, I think agree. Long-term vision is probably something that would be very important, because I'm pretty sure that building any tech company or startup, whether Web 2, Web 3, will take a long time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. And final question: where can people follow you and your company? If you can share any public handles.
Thank you. Well, we have I have my X account. We have the company at CrunchDAO as well. If you want to join our Discord as well, you're most welcome. And I highly encourage everyone to go to spend some time on Pi to generate some very cool time series and try to find some good insights. I think this is what we are really encouraging people to do now. And so I'm looking forward to see more of your community, Lam, to start crunching and asking questions to Pi.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. I'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes.
Thank you.
So that the listener and viewers can actually follow and join your communities. Once again, John, thank you so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure talking about Web3, blockchain, AI, and anywhere in between as well. It's a real pleasure learning.
Thank you so much, Lam. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
And we're back to my studio. What do you guys think about this episode with John Herelle, founder and CEO of Crunch Lab? It's pretty fascinating how blockchain technology, like the Crunch platform, can be used as the coordination mechanism that enables disconnected engineer experts and individual contributors to come and work together due to the built-in economic incentive system. Please leave a comment below to tell us what you have learned after watching this episode. For the next episode, we're talking to Yitong Zhang. He's one of the co-founders of Agora. Agora is a public governance infrastructure product for on-chain communities who really care about doing things right. If you're interested in DAO, then this is an episode you don't want to miss. If you enjoyed this episode, please give a like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.